We're here at the Path Bike Shop. My name is Tani.
I'm Zach.
We're looking at the brand new transition regulators.
These things are pretty rad so far. I think this ticks a lot of people's boxes without trying to be so like in your face, like new e-bike. They work well.
It's the year of all mountain.
Really is, yeah.
Yeah. So regulator CX, regulator SX. CX, this is what we have here, CX models. The CX has 85 Newton meters and a 600 watt hour battery.
And that SX was the SX motor with 55 Newton meters of torque
55.
And then a 400 battery.
Right, and it's a different frame. They're not the same frame.
Very close, but not quite. Yeah, you can't hot swap back and forth.
Yep, the SX doesn't have a flip chip. CX does. No SRAM builds, I found that to be interesting.
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting setup where they've partnered exclusively with RockShox for suspension. So on the Dior build, we don't have one of those here, but the Dior build comes with a Super Deluxe base and a Domain fork, versus the XT builds we have here have the Super Deluxe Ultimate and a Zeb Ultimate. But then the drivetrains are purely Shimano, which is, yeah, kind of an interesting choice.
It is. They have a UDH though, so you can put a transmission on there.
Yeah. I think one of the coolest specs is the new TRP Evo Pros that are on there. Those are really rad to see on there already, considering those just recently got released.
100%. And this is literally my first time doing the PK squeeze on these new brakes, and I want them so bad.
Yeah, the lever blade feel is really good compared to the old ones.
They took my favorite brakes and they made them better.
Yeah.
And they come with Schwalbe tires, so that's the trend this year, it seems like.
I thought it was an interesting choice. They went with the trail variants as opposed to the gravity case.
Yeah. Keeps it light.
Does keep it light.
Part of that 48 pound, they weighed 48 pounds with these XT builds, which aren't super light.
Yeah, with these have inner tubes in them right now, but they weighed exactly 48.
Yeah, these are exciting. It was funny, you put in the geometry to your little program and you overlaid the two bikes, this and the Santa Cruz Vala.
Yeah.
Which is a trip, right?
It was hilarious to see how many geo numbers were kind of completely consistent across the board between this and the Vala. Where it's one of those things where it's like, you're gonna notice some kinematic differences between the two bikes based off of what Santa Cruz likes to do for their curves and how Transition likes to do those a little bit differently. But actual just setup and ride feel is gonna be pretty consistent between the two, which I think is kind of cool.
Well, you had the sketch of the two bikes on your screen overlaid on each other, and you almost couldn't tell there were two bikes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all the numbers were nearly identical in the size large and the high position. They were matching reach numbers, stack heights, a couple of other differences. The main difference, I think, is the Transition has a slightly longer chainstay, whereas the Vala is a little bit shorter. But the Vala also has, again, in the high position specifically, a slightly slacker head tube angle, which gives it a little bit longer front center compared to the regulator, but very similar across the board.
You're excited about the longer chainstays?
I do, yeah. I prefer a little bit longer chainstay, especially on an e-bike, just to keep it a little bit more stable at speed. I think a lot of people have kind of grown to like that 440 number, has gotten pretty accustomed on pedal bikes. And I think on an e-bike, a 445 to 450 kind of is fairly consistent to that.
Interesting. I never thought about it that way. I'll have to think about that some more. I'm pretty excited to see what the SX weighs.
Yeah, the SX, the published weight was, I want to say like just shy of 42, something like that. I know the battery alone difference between the 600 and the 400 is a 2.2 pound difference. So that's pretty decent right there. I think the motor itself is another, I want to say pound or so, something like that.
Yeah. And there might be some other little changes to spec too. No flip chip.
No flip chip, and the SX builds don't come with a Zeb. They come with a Lyric instead to save a bit of weight.
And did you see the crank length on these?
150.
Isn't that rad?
It's so awesome to see.
Yeah, really good job transition on that.
Finally starting to see e-bikes spec'd with arguably the correct size cranks, which is tiny.
And these are the new Gen 5 version of the CX motor, I think.
Yes, yeah, the new Gen 5 smart system.
Probably going to get a software update soon to 100 Newton meters, from what I understand.
It's still rumor at this point.
It's a rumor. It's a pretty good rumor.
It's a good rumor.
Yeah, man. I can't wait to get out and ride one of these. I've been riding the Vala and I'd be really curious to see the difference. I was kind of speculating that this bike might have a little bit more kind of supportive, anti-squatty feel compared to the Vala. That tends to be how Transitions ride compared to Santa Cruz's, I feel like.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that.
A little poppier, a little more ground feel.
Exactly. I think one of the cool things about this bike too is if you wanted to, you can overstroke the rear shock from the stock 60 up to a 65 stroke and make it a 160 travel rear end. So in theory, if you upstroke both the front and the rear, make it a 160, 170 bike, kind of more similar to the geo numbers of where the Shuttle LT falls. It'd be kind of cool.
And if you had a regulator, that's probably what you would do. Huh?
If I've openly been looking at one, and that's exactly what I would do.
That's
yeah, bump it up. Yeah, gonna do. Just make it a little bit bigger.
Oh man, I can't wait to get out on the trail with you riding a regulator.
Yeah, this is gonna be rad.
Yeah. What else? Anything else jump out at you about these? DT Swiss hub spec is nice.
Yeah, the DT Swiss hybrid wheels. So the nice e-bike strength with a steel axle and a steel hub body, which is good for the power these are putting out and gonna be putting out more.
1-up bar spec is nice.
Yep. The price point on these is kind of an interesting one. So this bike, the XD build falls right at $9,000, which actually falls right in the middle of the two Vala offerings on either side. You have the S kit, which is GX mechanical with performance suspension at $85, so $500 less. Or you go $500 more than this, you're gonna move up to the GXT type with performance elite Fox suspension. So I feel like that build is probably closer to what this spec is, but you can get the nicer drivetrain, but they're both very similar on either side.
That performance level fork that comes on the S build is quite a bit less good than a factory fork or these forks.
Yeah, for the price difference that you'd be putting a damper into it with parts and labor, at that point you may as well just upgrade and either go to the Regulator XT or just go up to that Vala, because they're the GX Axis Vala, because that's also going to get you the T-type.
Because these have the newest RockShox dampers and buttercups?
Yep, these are the newest ones. So this is Charger 3.1 versus the old Charger 3 system, and these are both buttercup.
And that's a good fork.
That's an awesome fork.
Yeah. Cool. And this color is kind of gloss and that color is kind of matte.
Yeah, you got a gloss white and more of a matte kind of deep blue. This reminds me of the actual original color for the Spur a few years ago when that came out. Super similar.
Good color.
I wonder, it might actually be the same one. I don't know. But.
Yeah. So like, Transition's all about party in the woods.
Yeah.
I think these can totally party in the chaparral. Thanks for joining us to check out these brand new Transition regulators. We're super stoked to get them out on the trail.
Come on down to the Path Bike Shop and check them out.